Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about episode 4 of Hawkeye. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about episode 4 of the Disney Plus series, Hawkeye. Now, before we get into the review, let me ask you to please do one thing. Please help me and subscribe. Helps the channel grow, lets you know when I drop new videos, all that good stuff. So, Hawkeye. Well, except for the end, this one was quite a snore fest. I think the Disney Plus shows, honestly, they need a lot of help. If Loki and Hawkeye are both duds, then these Disney Plus shows are going to be bad. And they're going to become the level of bad that you had with what people think the Marvel Netflix shows were in terms of the Defenders series and the Iron Fist series. Although I was, fine with both seasons of Iron Fist. I actually thought it got better with season 2 and season 2 of Iron Fist left off in a really cool place. And I did want more after that point, but those are the ones that are regarded as pretty fucking terrible. Although season 2 of Jessica Jones I think was also pretty bad. And I haven't watched season 2 of The Punisher or season 3 of Jessica Jones. I don't know if I'll ever get there. That desperate to watch those things because they're just not that interesting. And I think that is what you're running into here with this Hawkeye show. The most interesting character on this Hawkeye show is not Hawkeye. It's not Clint Barton. It is Kate Bishop. And while Kate Bishop is an interesting character and she has a lot of spunk, she's fun to watch, she is dragged down by the sad sack worrywart of Clint Barton. This whole thing they've done with him, with his guilt over Natasha's death and the Ronin thing and all this stuff is just so boring. Oh my gosh. Let's get a move on already. Get over it. Your family came back. Yeah, you can feel a little guilt for all the things you did, but that guilt is just wearing the show down. And I'm really starting to get PO'd by how slow this show is moving in terms of what revelations there are. The only thing we got about the swordsman, Jack Dukenesque or whatever, Kate's new stepdad, soon-to-be stepdad, is that, yeah, he does actually own the front for the shell corporation that's behind the Tracksuit Mafia. That's it. What were we promised at the end of last episode? A sword at Hawkeye's throat, which then led to a pretty boring conversation with Kate and her mom and Jack. And you have no hints of anything whatsoever that this guy is a bad guy or even a skilled swordsman other than that little fencing thing that he did with Kate, what was it, last episode? And then, she's like, you're holding back. No real hints of this guy doing anything important at all or being important at all. And meanwhile, we just get this kind of snooze fest of a fight on the rooftop, which honestly looked freaking bad. It looked terrible. The green screen on top of the rooftop, just don't even try, Marvel. That looks awful. The best thing Falcon and Winter Soldier did, and this must have been the director, was to say, nope, we're going to do this in a real place. We're going to go travel for this show. Very few green screens. I think the only green screen I remember on that show was or that was really obvious anyway, was when they were on top of the trucks on the first second episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I'm thinking about the whole warehouse fight in the middle of that season when they're in Lithuania and stuff like that, Estonia, wherever that was. That fight scene was gripping, it was exciting, it was very much something that you wanted to watch. Here, it looks like you're watching a bunch of amateurs try and work their way through some choreography they learned the day before, and it doesn't even rise to the level of the Alias fight scenes we got 20 years ago when that television show was on the air. It really suffers, I think, because they're, they're shooting, so wide and so far away, and they have the actors doing it, which is fine, it's well and good, but if the actors can't pull off these moves fast enough to look interesting or whatever, you got to cut around that. And that's why I think you have Christopher Nolan. The big criticism for his Batman films was he cut around the fights too much. You couldn't see what was going on. Well, maybe there was a reason for that, and you're seeing an example of that here in Hawkeye episode 4, in that this fight was pretty bad, pretty boring. Just people flipping over one another again and again and again. Nothing really happening. Nobody really coming to blows. Just kind of like all the super evasion stuff that gets really boring really fast. Like, it's fine if you do it once or twice, but when the entire fight scene is a whole bunch of that, and you're playing it for, like, felt like they were almost trying to play it for laughs, although really unsuccessfully. It was just a really terrible, boring fight scene. Like, for God's sakes, Daredevil, the Netflix show, had better fight scenes than this thing here. So, if Disney Plus, if Marvel is not going to invest on the level that they did of Falcon and the Winter Soldier for the fight scenes, don't bother doing fight scenes. And if you're not going to make an interesting story, or at least, this might be an interesting story in 3 episodes. But if you're going to string us along for 6 episodes, you need to make more interesting things than, trying to figure out who Jack is, because we don't really care. He's not that interesting of a character yet. You haven't given us anything to go on. He's not even that menacing, for crying out loud. Maya Lopez, Echo, yeah, she's mad you broke into her apartment. Do we know why she's mad? Yeah, because you had to tell us last episode. But does she feel like that much of a threat against Clint Barton? I don't think so. Or Kate, not really. Like, she's not a superstar in terms of these other people. And then you got the worst thing in the world in this episode, I feel like, was, as much as I loved her in Black Widow, was Yelena Belova showing up in this stupid mask for no reason, because I guess, hey, hides a stunt person, fine. But it's just like the whole thing of like, not like this whole, it's supposed to be a big reveal of who this person is. She's wearing the freaking vest that her sister gave her in the movie we saw a few years ago. It's like dead giveaway. And you want to put a mask on her. Like, just give me a break, man. It's lazy is really what this show is. It is super duper lazy. There's nothing here. And 4 episodes in, I will be surprised if they pull out something for the last 2. Honestly, this show is worse than Loki for me at this point. This is terrible. At least Loki had something at the very end where you were like, oh my gosh, wow, that was really cool. This show's not going to have that at all. So if they're going to do this with these other shows, like, I really feel like they need to up the stakes a little. Instead of telling one whole long 6-hour movie, then freaking program it like a TV show. And that is what I think where WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the 2 best examples so far, had that programming like a TV show. There was an action scene, there was setup, there was plot, there was a new part of the mission that they had to go and achieve every single episode. WandaVision had a new TV show theme to riff on every week, and a new problem within each episode, because it was set up like a sitcom that they encountered, they struggled against, and then they solved every episode. Here, there's no new problem that the heroes encounter and solve every episode. They need to break this up. They need to stop doing these shows as one long TV show, or one long movie, split into 6 parts, because that's just really boring, and it feels like you could have cut this down and made an interesting 2-hour movie out of this whole thing. So if you're going to make TV shows, make TV shows. Make them episodic. Problem, conflict, resolution. Problem, conflict, resolution. Every episode. And if you want to string those along and tie them all together, all the better. But don't give me this stuff where only one thing happens and you're going to make an hour of television out of it. Give me a break. There's no excuse for this. There are better writers out there that know how television works. Go call Mark Bernard, and he's working for you on video games. He can tell you how this show needs to be broken down in order to make it interesting every single episode, instead of the one yarn you guys plotted out for what should have been a 2-hour movie, maybe a 2-hour TV movie, into 6 hours of television. I think maybe that's the thing, is that this originally probably was an interesting 2-hour movie. And maybe you want to make it a straight to Disney Plus movie the way that Batgirl's going straight to HBO Max. That's fine. That would be totally acceptable. But to string it out into 6 hours and make this super boring, shame on you. This is a waste of our time. Hawkeye, episode 4. The show sucks. It's the new suckiest show from Disney Plus. Man, this year started out so good with these shows, and it is so disappointing to see how far we've fallen with these Marvel Disney Plus shows. Do you guys love the show? Am I totally wrong? Let me know down below in the comments, and we'll see you guys in the funny pages.